visited me. Next week I'll open it again. They make narratives, they write articles based on that. How many times do I receive there the Minister of Defense, the Commander of the Navy, Minister such and such, Secretary such and such, to discuss what subject? Our trip to Russia, for example. If I go to the G20, I won't go. If I go to the Summit of the Americas, I don't go. If I go to the inauguration of the President of Chile, I won't go. Among other confidential matters. And according to the people who go there, because I only have time off with me, I say the following. I know that there are people who won't like it. Corinthians fans won't like it here. When it's time for the Palmeiras game, I only answer the phone from Ms. Michelle de Pola. No one else. I don't answer anyone. The Pope can claim that I don't answer. When it's time for a Palmeiras game, I only have time off at those times. Now, according to the person who comes to my house, a beautiful woman will suddenly come to my house with a colleague of hers I receive. My wife doesn't know, but she happens to be beautiful. Oops, he received that plane at his house. What was the deal? Was the First Lady present or not? It's starting to become hell in my life. So, because of that, I'm demanding my privacy like everyone else has. Everyone receives whoever they want in their house. It's not a pleasure for anyone. This is democracy. This is freedom. Why does the company want to know who I've welcomed there? They write articles. Almost every week, they fire the minister. Carlos França is going to be replaced. He is an exceptional guy who arranged for me to go to talk to Putin at the G20, the fault of the Americas. He's a guy who deals with...
But it would be interesting for people to know, for example, when Jose was going to the official residence, wouldn't it?
There was a recording of that. So, there was a recording. That's another story. And apparently, it was Vuezio himself who recorded that trip there, and the term was shaky until his case was archived.
Since we talked about Tamir and so on, you were also talking about the beginning of the government. Something that I personally missed, President. I think we need an urgent tax reform and perhaps a political reform as well. Isn't that in the plans?
In politics, generally, you have to have an agreement with the parliament. It's always been like that. Can I send a pack and have the parliament go from 513 to 300 deputies? The people will complain. Go ahead.
I will fight.
They will scream. Now what about the political consequences for me of such an act? I honestly think that 513 is a lot of people. In addition to the huge expense, quiet difficulties travel throughout Brazil. But Parliament will not accept that. Even the mistake of this increase was made by the military regime, which also made a mistake. When it started, increased the number of parliamentarians in the former territories. Okay. They did it with good intentions, but it didn't work. You can't reduce it. While I was a member of parliament for 28 years, on more than one occasion you increased, for example, the number of seats here in the state of São Paulo. You take, for example, a state with low population density, you take, and Roraima. I think it has about 500,000 voters. You take São Paulo, 35 million voters, 70 times more voters. So each person from Roraima had to have 70 in São Paulo. So, since there are 8 there, there had to be 560 in São Paulo alone. Let's not discuss this matter. Now, it has given too much superpower to smaller states. I don't know if it's good for democracy or not. That's the rule of the game. Whoa. And I have no way of proposing that, because even the benches from the northeast of smaller states, such as Rondônia, Acre, Roraima, Sergipe, they will lobby with other benches in exchange for other things to not approve this. We must first freeze this here, not allow the number of parliamentarians to increase any further. So, politically, it's great. Look, I want it, Congress doesn't want it. It's going to clash with Parliament.
What about tax reform? Because look, I think that one of the biggest injustices in Brazil is that the poor pay the same tax on shampoo that I don't know we here in this room pay. Right. Is there any way to change that? Do you want anything?
They're already moving. We reduced the API in Brazil by 33%. Or not.
But that is a palliative that tomorrow.
I said at the beginning of the program that it's a tax reduction. No one else. You can talk. So what? The famous so what? Well, for example, we have eliminated the import tax on sailboats. Someone might think, well, sailboats are for the rich. No, no. The import tax, he doesn't have to come up with a compensatory tax for that. Now, it's Europe. There are 7 million sailboats. Who brought this information to me? The former Minister of Tourism, Gilson Machado, from Pernambuco. And each sailboat, one after the other, directly or indirectly creates 2 more jobs. We'll figure it out from there. We'll eliminate the jet ski tax. Can you tell me jet ski? Hey, have you ever ridden a jet ski? Answer me.
No.
The day you ride one, you'll fall in love. The business is too cold. I'm really horny. Do something crazy, jet ski. Damn, I'll jump off the bus, play a reboot, and everyone. Okay, jet ski. I was a motorcyclist in Rio de Janeiro. No, Guarani. With all due respect to the motorcycle couriers here in Sao Paulo, I know the traffic is not easy, but in Rio, it's much worse. Is that right? So, for example, jet ski. A good jet ski costs 90,000 rei. What is the tunnel? Wait.
It doesn't give a shit, and it goes.
From now on, no queue. Why? Why? I went to the Navy and talked to Commander Garnier. Commander, it has to do with him. They made it harder to get a jet ski license. Come on, what can we do to make getting a jet ski license easier? In 5 minutes, anyone can learn to drive a jet ski. So we changed it. Admiral Garnier reached an agreement with the Navy and changed it. He made it easier to get a jet ski license. What am I trying to get at? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Nowadays, getting a license is a pain. It was a pain in the ass and in reverse. We changed things. What's going on? You can now go to the place where you can rent a jet ski with your family and you'll have a 5-minute lesson. A chat plus a practical lesson. In 10 minutes you will have a provisional jet ski license. Anyone will have a provisional jet ski license in 10 minutes. If you do it, and it is valid for 30 days, if you do it 3 times in the space of a year, you will get your permanent license. You can arrive in El Dorado Paulista soon. The city where I grew up, right? I won't say Ribeira, or you can arrive in Seat Barrows. Ribeira gets more complicated. The river is not that navigable. You can take your family or go alone like I did. I got Sergeant Mozart, who's in the army, my yoke, right? I went to El Dorado, each of us on a jet ski. We went for an hour upriver. 80 kilometers. You go 80, 100 kilometers per hour on the jet ski. It's the most fun thing there is. There are no speed bumps, no speed cameras, okay? There's no one to bother you. Then you turn off the jet ski, put on your straw hat, grab the reel, and go. 4, 5 hours until you get to El Dorado, fishing. Do you want something more exciting than that? Beautiful, fantastic. Brazil is a country with no water anywhere. If you build dams around here, jet ski tourism in Brazil will start to explode. Like, for example, Tarcísio did when he got his hydroplane license. It was also a duck, a seaplane license. He made it easier. For example, the Amazon region, which is a runway, has water everywhere. We want to bring not only tourists from abroad, but people to see the Amazon and see that that thing doesn't catch fire. The forest is humid. You can take 200 liters of gasoline, throw it in the forest, and set it on fire.
Don't do that, President.
It doesn't catch fire. The forest is humid. It catches fire on the outskirts, on the edge, and in areas that, in the interest of some states, were incorporated, such as the Amazon region, because of tax incentives. So we tried. In the first 2 years of government, the prize from the chamber is different. Now we're going to get the 4th look. What did we try? The so-called land regularization. So a bonfire of San Juan in the Amazon region is a source of heat, a fire. A place where every year the riverside dweller or Indian sets fire to his family farm is a hot spot. If you regularize it, you will know the CPF of that hot spot and put an end to this story of huge fires. Now you are seeing massive fires in France in Saint-Macon, which no one publishes here. The forests have been burning for over 30 days. Along with the heat wave, over 1,000 people have already died there. Fires are breaking out in the Amazon region on the outskirts. They are breaking out. Many times, fires are accidental or natural, and there is also spontaneous combustion. You can't crucify the president. No one is crucifying Macron for the forests. In France, there are fires on fire now. Or in California, they are on fire now too. No one says anything. In the Pantanal, until recently, cattle raising was allowed there. After that, they didn't allow it. The cattle ate grass, something organic which they would turn into a mass of fuel. It was taken away. It's no longer allowed. So when a fire breaks out in the Pantanal region, it sometimes takes 2, 3 years to catch fire, and the longer it takes, the bigger the fire gets. Do we want to fight it? We do. But how big is the Amazon region where you fought the fire? It's bigger than our Western Europe.
Really fucking big.
To coordinate this here, you have to take a Yanomami reserve.
But something needs to be done.
We are doing it. You take a Yanomami reserve. How big is the Yanomami reserve? Twice the size of the state of Rio de Janeiro. 9,000 indigenous people inside. It's like I said until recently. In the government of 2003, 2004, 2005, there was more deforestation and fire than in 2019, 2020. You can't blame the president for this. What do you want to do? We are trying to do this with the reform, with the incumbent, with the reform I mentioned. What is it like? No, hanging with the title is another thing. With land regularization. So, by georeferencing, this area here is your CPF. I'll get to you, man. There in the region, on your farm here, over there, you have to preserve 80% of the Amazon region. You can make use of that land. No.
This conversation started, President, with me talking about taxes. You talked about taxes on jet skis and such, but my point is that, man, I live there in Jaca, in Jacare, and life there, man. No one is worried about that. Guys, we're worried about the price of beans.
But tell me where there are federal taxes on basic access products. There is not. There is a state tax. What? I did my part. We are collecting a certain amount. With responsibility, I will leave Paulo Guedes' back. No, I do not interfere. Do this. PG Ipiranga gas station, what do you think about doing this here? Since he likes me, in a straight way, he usually serves me. He's doing it for the best. It's not just the import tax on sailboats and jet skis.
Who's proposing tax reform?
Anyone can propose it. I can propose it, executive, legislative. Now, I spent 28 years there, and nothing has been done. We're going to change it now, start updating the income tax table, because basically it changed not income tax, but income reduction. We couldn't change it because the pandemic came. I told you, in 2020 alone, 700 billion was spent. Gigabucks. There was no room for anything. Wow. Some of my campaign promises. I wanted, for example, a military school in every state capital that didn't have one. I aborted. I didn't have the money. Pandemic. I've already finished it, but a military school will be opened here in Sao Paulo this year.
Speaking of the military, why are there so many military personnel in the government, President?
Look, if I were to put another profile of people, they would have voted for Haddad. What's wrong with putting military people in? These guys have a broad knowledge of Brazil. These are people who... Can it do any harm? Yes. But the chance is much lower than you accepting a political nomination. Now, I've also replaced military personnel. I changed the Minister of Defense. I've changed the Minister of Mines and Energy. Ramos is a bit of a wild card. I've put him here and there. He plays that guy there, but the guy's ugly. No. He's already ugly, Ramos.